Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining NAICA's ERAP webinar. Tonight, we have Marlon Valarezo, our Executive Director of Legal Services, presenting and informing us about ERAP. We also want to thank Council Member Fernando Cabrera for allowing us the opportunity to inform the public about this program. Marlon, you can start.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Marlon Valarezo. So for people who don't know, NAICA is a not-for-profit. We've been in existence since 1974, and since 1992, we're providing free legal assistance to low-income tenants throughout the Bronx. So we also assist with FEPS applications as well as other programs. I'm here tonight to discuss the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP. Now, so who is ERAP for? Basically, it's for tenants who are unable to pay their rent and utilities due to the pandemic. Now, when it says tenants who are low income, I just want to qualify that by saying that they did give additional money, state monies, for those people who earn above the 80 AMI. So initially, the federal money was designated just for those who earned below 80 AMI, and which was the area mean income. But now they have allocated some state money for those who earn between 80 and 120 AMI. So please try and apply, even if you do not think you qualify, you may. So for example, someone who's at 120 AMI and is a family of one can earn up to 100,000. So there's a possibility you could qualify for some of this ERAP money. So please, I'm asking everybody, apply. Homeowners, co-op owners do not qualify. So this is for someone who is renting an apartment or renting a home, renting a co-op apartment, but they must be the renter and not the owner. It is currently in the ERAP a two-step application. Tenants are required to complete their portion, and then the landlords must complete theirs. When you do your ERAP application, you will inform OTDA, which is the agency running this, the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance, all of your landlord's information. So that means their email, their phone number, and that way OTDA can reach out to your landlord and let them know that you've done the application and that they must now submit their portion. So what does ERAP pay? For tenants, it will pay up to 12 months of rent arrears accrued after March 2020, as well as up to 3 months of additional rent if you are paying more than 30% of your gross income towards rent. It can also help you with 12 months of utility, but that's in conjunction with old rent. So unfortunately, you can't just apply for utility arrears through ERAP. If you have utility arrears only, then I would recommend you go through Access HRA app and apply for the assistance with that. You are not required to pay ERAP back. You are not required to be a citizen. These are just things that people should know, but you will be required to pay ERAP back if you say something that is incorrect or false on your application. So please make sure that whatever you put in your ERAP application is truthful. Any payments that are approved and made will be made directly to your landlord and utility company. When an approval is made, both the landlord and the tenant will be notified that there has been an approval and that this money is being paid. And you usually will break down what the amount is that's being paid. Right now, like I said, ERAP is scheduled to run until the funds are finished. And since this is an important topic right now, we'll bring that up right now. So there is news recently that some of the monies have dwindled. So earlier in September, the state allocated 125 million, which was just for those people who earned between 80 AMI and 120 AMI. That money is still available. They also allocated 125 million for LRAP, which is for landlords to apply. That money is still available. The money that is dwindling quickly is the federal money, which was for those who earned below 80 AMI. So what we're encouraging everybody is to keep applying. We've been told by OTDA to let people still apply. They will not be stopping anyone until they've depleted all funds, or they are also very confident that they're trying to reach out to try and get more funds for this federal grant. So I'm encouraging everyone, do not stop, try to apply and do it as soon as possible. Because like I said, they haven't opened the portal because they believe that they can still have funds for these applications, but we don't know what will happen in a month or 2 months from now. So I'm encouraging everyone, if this is you have been holding off and waiting, this is the time to try and apply. Don't hold off or wait any longer. As I said, it's the federal ERAP is for those who earn below the 80 AMI. So that's for a family of one, 66,000. But as I also stated, if you're earning between 80 and 120 AMI, you can be eligible for the state ERAP monies, which are available currently, because there was 125 million designated for this amount. In order to prove your income eligibility, you will need to provide proof of your income, whether it's a tax document, pay stubs, SSI award letters. Some tenants are signing self-attestation saying that they have no income, and which are also notarized, and that we can submit to OTDA. Also, we will have everyone who's 18 and older who is working should submit proof of income, but if they're 18 and a full-time student, they will not have to do it. And gross income includes wages, salaries, Social Security benefits, retirement benefits, child support, gifts, and other income. Just make sure that you understand that citizenship, yet again, is not an eligibility requirement, because I've heard people still talking about that. You do not have to be a citizen to apply. All right, to start the application, you will go to the New York State renthelp.otda.ny.gov website, and you will start the application process. Now, I would encourage most people, if you have an email address, please create an account. If you create the account, you can not only stop and save your application and resume later, which is only available if you create an OTDA account, but you can also go back and check your status periodically. It's much harder to go back. Well, you can't even resume your application if you do not create an account. So if you're not creating an account, that means that you must start your application and finish it in one sitting. There is no resuming it later. So I always encourage people, if you have an email address, please just try and make yourself an account, and that way you'll be able to check up on your application as well. Also, when you start this application, the very first thing, the first page after you save it, an ID number will come up that says this is your ERAP ID, and it's usually on the top of the page. Please write it down or take a picture of it. You must maintain that ID number forever, because once you have an issue and you have to reach out to OTDA, the first thing they ask you is, can I get your application number? So make sure that that is very important, that you're writing it down or taking a picture of it, so that you always have that ID number to refer back to. Also, to check your status, you're going to need your ID number. So make sure that that's a very important step. When you start the application, they're just going to ask you very quickly for your information regarding your name. Oh, first they're going to ask you who's filling this out. So a family member could do it for you, a friend, your landlord, your attorney. Agencies like NAICA, which is a community-based agency, we'll put our information, and then after we've put our information, it'll go onto your information. Now, you don't have to have an agency complete the application for you. You can go on yourself on the website and do it on your own. But if you do need assistance, agencies like NAICA, Bronx, and other agencies throughout the city are assisting tenants with filling out their ERAP applications. So they want to have all your information, and I'm going to go through these slides a little quickly, only because I just want you to get a view of what the information they're requesting. So it's basically all your information regarding your name, your date of birth, your age, your gender, your email, phone number. Try and give them the correct email and phone number, because that's how they will be communicating with you. Later on, you'll be able to give them an example of, like, do you want your communication done by email, by phone, by text, by snail mail, regular mail, being mailed to you. But just make sure everything is correct when you give it to them, so that way you are in communication with OTDA. They're going to ask you, like, what is your primary language? They will send you notices in your primary language. They're going to ask you, what is your lease? Is it a month to month? Is it a year-long lease, 2-year lease? If you do not have a lease, they want all this information. They want to know your employment status. And like I said, if you're a single person, this should go quickly, because you're going to give just all your basic information. You're going to give your employment information, your socials, your date of birth. But if you live you have a family member who's maybe like 2-3 family members, make sure that you have all their information on hand, because you're going to do this application and you're going to have to put in their date of birth, their income information. And if you have to keep stopping to go and get the information, it may cause you to, unfortunately, lose the application, because it's happened. Sometimes when it doesn't see, like, there's no movement, the application can crash and you may lose it. So I always encourage people, if you're going to start the application and you aren't going to, create an account so you can save and resume, then I encourage you, have all the documentation necessary. So if there's 2 adults in the household, both working, have all the information regarding their date of birth, their income, their socials, if they have any, all their information, have it readily available, so you can go through this application and not have to keep stopping and, God forbid, lose the information. They will ask you about hardship. What hardship did you suffer? Now, for most people, at least for the ones I've spoken to, most people had increased costs. That means that you had to buy PPE, things that you never had to do before, such as gloves, masks. These things were not something pre-COVID that anybody thought about. So obviously most of us, 90% of us, have increased costs. A lot of people also had their hours reduced. Their jobs only, they were full-time employees, now they're part-time. These are all things you can explain to OTDA to put in your application. You can explain that if you had increased healthcare costs, if you had to, like I said, buy PPE, if you had to do remote learning. So example, some people had to invest in getting the internet. They didn't have internet before, but if they have children who had to, do remote schooling, they had to pay for internet, or they had to buy laptops. I know some people told me that even though they were supposed to get laptops from the school, they weren't given them. So unfortunately, they had to go out and invest in laptops to give their children the opportunity to do remote learning. So these are things that will be added to your hardship, that will be added as a reason for your hardship. Also explain to them if you're a veteran, if you suffered domestic violence, if you're a victim of human trafficking, if there's been an eviction. A lot of my clients primarily have had court cases. So that's something we check off, that there is an ongoing court case. Now you get to the household members, if there are any. Then this, like I told you earlier, you would include all their information. So you include, their socials, their their information regarding their income, also their email address, their phone numbers, because all this information is given to OTDA and they will be reviewing it. These following types of income are excluded under this program, so you don't have to report them. So foster care payments, public assistance, sporadic gifts, SNAP benefits, HEAP benefits, earned income tax credit, they are not considered income, so don't have to be reported. At the end, you're going to certify that what your income is and how you're receiving your income. They'll ask you if you are receiving SNAP benefits. They will ask you if you are receiving SSI or Medicaid. They'll ask you what form of employment, if it's unemployment, social, Social Security, self-employment. Like I said, you can also put a self-attestation, which should be notarized saying that you have no income. And I've had a few like that that's come in for a family of 2, and they have absolutely no income, and they've both had to sign something saying that they're notarizing it, saying that they're not working. The lease, you should let them know what kind of lease it is. Is it a yearly lease? Is it a month-to-month lease? If it's in an apartment, a duplex, a single home, most times when it's a family, like a single home, you don't have a lease, but you may have a prior lease agreement, or you may have some kind of written agreement for rent, which doesn't look like the average rent stabilized lease, but all those things can be submitted to OTDA. You'll let them know what kind of unit it is. So as I said previously, you can't be in a rent stabilized apartment or in a private house, but you can also be in public housing, NAICA, and you can also be receiving Section 8, FEPS, any of these subsidies, but what you'll be requesting for in the arrears will be the subsidy portion, your portion. So example, if the rent is $1,200, but your subsidy portion is only $400, you can only seek assistance with the $400 that is your portion for those months. So if you haven't paid 5 months, then you're only seeking the $400 over those 5 months. You're not seeking the entire $1,200 because Section 8 should have been paying their portion. They also want to know if you're renting from the owner, or if you're renting a room, if you're renting from a co-op owner, because if you, like I said before, co-op owners are not eligible, but the person who's renting from a co-op owner is eligible. Then we will fill out the amounts of arrears and indicate how much is owed. So like I said, if you come to an agency like NAICA, we will do this work for you. We'll work with you over the phone and just ask you these questions as we're going along, and you'll send us your documents, or you'll come into the office to drop off your documents, and we will fill out what rent arrears you have monthly, as well as the monthly rent, and if there's any fees being added. They also want to know if you need the help with a future assistance of rent. I tell everyone to click yes, and I always say put the 3 months. Because most people do need help with ongoing rent, at least for the prospective rent. So you ask for the 12 months of rent arrears, and then they'll ask you, oh, do you also need assistance with November, December, and January? I tell most people, yes, say yes, and do the 3 months. But you're only going to get approved if you're paying more than 30% of your gross income.
Marlon?
Yes.
I see Councilman Cabrera is here. I think he wants to greet us.
Sorry. Yes, of course.
He's just joined in.
Thank you so much. My apologies for being here a little late, but it just too much in my schedule. But I wanted to thank NAICA for the great work that you guys do and the information that you're downloading right now to our people. You know, whatever you're not up on, you're down on. And you're about to lift, and you're lifting right now our community to give them the resources. I know there are people who are back on the rent. They don't even know that it's already been allocated. And so I salute you. I wanted to personally thank you, NAICA, because you touch so many people's lives as you're doing right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councilman Cabrera. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
We try really hard. Thank you.
All righty, bye-bye.
So utilities, as I stated earlier, for utilities, you must also owe rent. So it's not just going to be able to apply just for utilities arrears grant. You have to owe rent in conjunction in order to get assistance through ERAP. If, like I stated earlier, you only owe utilities, I would encourage you to reach out to Con Edison. You can tell them that you're having a hardship, and you can work with them to create a payment plan. Or you can also do a one-shot deal through HRA, through the Access HRA app, and get assistance that way to pay back the back utilities, if that's all you owe and you don't owe any rent as well. And basically the breakdown to do utilities arrears is the same as like the rent amount. They're gonna ask you each month that you owe and how much is past due. I always tell people when they come in, if you do wanna get assistance from an agency like NAICA, make sure you have your most up-to-date Con Ed bill and the amount that's owed. They're also going to ask you if you are living, like I said, have any subsidies, if you have Section 8, if you have FEPS, any of these programs, because like I said, you wouldn't be then asking for the full rent. They will also be asking you if you've been getting assistance through any other programs, as far as, let's say you went and applied for a one-shot deal, which I will tell you right now, it looks like one-shot deals, as well as programs like City FEPS, have been not approving or basically looking at applications until a tenant has applied for ERAP. So unfortunately, you have to basically apply for ERAP. If you're approved, great. If you're denied, unfortunately. But then at that point, you can go to these programs, to HRA for a one-shot deal or an exceptional policy, or to City FEPS, home base for a City FEPS application. And the reason they're doing that is they feel like they want the ERAP exhausted first before you go in for this other monies. But as soon as you get, let's say you owe 20,000 and ERAP only covers 10, once they see the approval and that they're going to pay 10,000, you can then apply for the one shot or for the City FEPS, and they can then try to assist you. So yeah, like I said, you should tell OTDA about any other assistance you've received, whether it was another program that's paid partial of your rent. Okay, when I was saying about communication preferences. So yes, you want to make sure, like I said earlier, that you get the right email or your right number put in the application, because you can then tell them how you want to get notices. So if you do not give your correct number and you put text message for your notices and the number is incorrect, you will not be getting those notices from OTDA, whether they need more documentation, whether you've been approved or whether you've been denied, or whether it's pending approval. So these are things that you want to make sure they know. You also want to make sure that you have your preferred language for communication. So as you can see, there's English, Spanish, Arabic, Bengali, Chinese, Haitian, Korean, Russian, Yiddish. These are languages you can say, I want to get my communication sent to me in, whether it's text, email, or paper. You can also ask for an interpreter if one is needed. You can also ask for an alternative formats, such as Braille, audio files. They can make the notices larger print. At the end of the application, they will have an applicant certification, which is where you basically certify that everything that you said in this application and to the agency, if you're being assisted, is truthful, that you've read everything carefully, and that you agree to sign the application, the ERAP application, and that it's all correct. You add your signature. If you're doing it in the office, we would usually have it notarized, because we want to make sure that that's how it's submitted, but it can also be recorded in the office as well. And basically, like I said earlier, if everything is truthful, you will not have to pay the ERAP money back. It's a grant. But if something is found during their review of your application to be false, then you may be responsible to pay some of this money back. After you've done the entire application, it will ask you to upload documents. Some people do the application on their own and then come to agencies such as NAICA to say, I need help just uploading the documents. We will do that. If you call us at our number, we will provide you assistance with uploading your documents, because there is certain requirements with the file size as well as the type of file. So it has to be like a JPEG or a PDF, and it has to be below a certain amount of gigabytes. So we will assist you with that if you're having difficulty uploading your documents. And these are things like your photo ID, your birth certificates, your socials, your proof of income, your lease, your rent arrears. So example, if you're owe rent, you should have a breakdown. If you want assistance with Con Ed, you should have your Con Ed bill. These are things that we will have to upload. So the same thing, you have to bring in proof of, like I said, your ID, your social, your lease. Make sure that all your documents regarding your income, which could be pay stubs, self-attestation, your tax documents, all this has to be uploaded. Your proof of residency, like I said, if you do not have a lease, you can also bring in your rent receipt. Sometimes from landlords, you haven't found your lease and they're not giving you a copy. But if you have the rent receipt, which shows your rental obligation and shows who the landlord is, what that your name is on the rent receipt, we may be able to utilize that as well for proof that you live there. Also, I haven't seen too many denials yet, but I have had some people starting to receive denials. So there is the opportunity that if you do not agree with your denial on the ERAP, that you have the right to appeal. So you have 30 days after your decision to request an appeal. And as you can see, you can call 844-691-7368 to request an appeal. And also you should be getting a basically confirming notification saying that they've received your request for an appeal. And you can also go and upload documents to the same website that you've gone to apply. Okay, so you can see it here where it says upload documents. So you'll be able to do the appeal through there, but also you can reach out to one of our agencies and we'll try and assist you as well. Now, I remember at the beginning, I said there was two new designations of money. So 125 million was designated from the state to assist those people who earned above the 80 AMI to 120 AMI. But there was also 125 million that was set aside for something called the Landlord Rental Assistance Program. This is for landlords whose tenants could qualify for ERAP, but basically either vacated owing arrears or who are not cooperating in submitting an ERAP application. And so, I mean, when people say, oh, they're not cooperating, yes, it happens. Sometimes, I've tried myself where I'm calling a tenant who I know can apply for this program and you can't get in touch with them. And you've tried and tried. So there are landlords, this program, the LRAP program, which landlords can now apply. So if you go to the actual website, you will see there's a tenant portion and now it's the landlord portion. And this is separate from the ERAP application. So unfortunately, if your landlord saying, well, why can't I already tried previously to apply for ERAP? No, this is a different application. So they must apply for the LRAP. So in order to qualify for the LRAP, there is no income eligibility. I will say that there's no income, whether it's for the tenant or the landlord, but the unit itself must be at or below 150 of the fair market value. Based on the bedrooms. So I think I looked earlier, an example of 1 bedroom in the Bronx, the fair market value is about 2,700. So that's just an example of what the rent amount must be. He must have reached out to this tenant at least 3 times. At least 2 of them must be in writing, stating that they try to reach out to the tenant to get them to apply for ERAP and attest to this. And also they can only get 12 months of arrears, the LRAP, and they have to be able to document those rental arrears after March 1st, 2020. So that means whether they have rent breakdowns, their leases, anything that they can show to show what is actually owed. For the first 45 days, we're just gonna let everybody know, LRAP is giving priority to landlords who have 20 or fewer units. So everyone should apply, whether or not you have 100 units or 20 units, everyone during these first 45 days should apply, but priority will be given to those who have units with 20 or fewer, okay? And it's on a first come, first come, it's like a first come, first served basis after that. But just make sure you apply as soon as possible. So that way within the first 45 days while they're approving the others, you're the first one they see after those first 45 days. And also, like we've said on the, for ERAP, when a tenant applies for ERAP, as well as when the landlord applies for LRAP, it basically puts, if there is a court case, the case into almost like a stay, where the court will not look at the case until the ERAP decision is made. So just so everybody's aware, doing these applications, especially on the tenant side, is important because it could put your case on a stay where you are not facing eviction. So yeah, for the landlord, like I said, there's two different sides. There's one for the tenant and one for the owners. So the owners will be filling out this portion on this side, which is just for the LRAP application. And the type of properties that can apply for LRAP, it's apartments, a duplex, a single family home, single room occupancy, SRO, manufactured home or manufactured home lot rental. Landlords must submit their W-9, and I think this says you can submit them on the actual site. So when you're doing the application, it says do the W-9 in the site. Proof of ownership, the executed lease. If you don't have a lease, yet again, something that shows the rental obligation, whether it was a letter that you had created, canceled checks, proof of payments from the tenant, you have to show that there was a monthly obligation. Documentation of the unpaid rent, so I would say the rent breakdown, and any of your banking information. So as I said previously, agencies such as NAICA and BronxWorks and in the Bronx are assisting tenants as well as landlords with submitting their applications for ERAP or LRAP. In Manhattan, you can see there's Catholic Charities, University Settlement. In Brooklyn, Black Veterans, Good Shepherds, Metropolitan Council on Jewish Poverty, Riseboro, Queens, Korean Community Services, and also Riseboro and Catholic Charities. And then in Staten Island, Project Hospitality. So if you're in another borough, this is the opportunity you can have to take a picture, and you can reach out to those agencies that coincide with your borough. To reach out to NAICA, please call us at the 718-866-0038 number for the hotline, or you can email us at NAICA-ERAP@NAICANY.org. We do have a hotline open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 5, Tuesday and Thursday from 8 till 7, and Saturdays from 10 till 3. So you can always call us. I always tell people Saturdays always seems to be the quietest day for some reason. During the week, it seems to that phone rings a lot, but during Saturdays, we seem to be a little quieter. So if you would like to call on a weekend, you have the opportunity. And like I said, we can assist you in filling out the application. We won't see you in person. What we will do is contact you. We'll do the application since it's electronic, we'll be doing the application with you on the phone. And then at the end, we will make either an arrangement for you to email us the documents or for you to come in person and bring the documents so that we can upload them to OTA. And then we will provide you with the application number as well as all your confirmations for each document that was submitted. And like I said, we are assisting both landlords and tenants during this process. So if you need any assistance, please come in. I just want to also say that we were told, I have read that NYCHA is eligible for LRAP. Like so a NYCHA development, but they will be assessed after all the other applications are assessed, as well as Section 8. So if a tenant moved out and they owed their portion, but Section 8 has been paying, I read the same thing, that those will be assessed at the end. So once all the other LRAP applications are reviewed, that's when those applications will be assessed. And also the landlord who accepts LRAP must also agree that they're not going to evict the person for failure to, they're not going to for failure to renew the lease or holdover. So just letting you know, like if you're going to do the LRAP, which is important because if you need to get paid, because a lot of these landlords, just like owners, apartment renters went through a hard time during COVID. So this might be a program that can help you get that money that you lost. So if there's any questions, please place them in the chat and Samantha will give me any questions, but I wanted to see if there's any thing I can think of. Oh, like I said previously, Con Edison, if you're having any kind of issues, regardless that you can't apply for ERAP, try to reach out to Con Edison. I think we had a Con Edison number. I'll see if I can get it for you, where you can call them and say, I'm having a hardship, and they can put you on a payment plan. You can also reach out, like I said, to HRA, to Access HRA, and get assistance with like a one-shot deal for Con Ed.
We actually, one of the questions was, I have many clients calling for the Con Edison bill, very high, but they are paying their rent. So if we can get the number, actually, because I thought I wrote it down.
Okay, I'll try and see if I can get the number.
But in the meantime, I'm posting 3 phone numbers into the chat. So the first one is the public charge number. This is for people that are undocumented, and if they feel like this is something that's going to be conflicted for their case, for their legal status, they can definitely call this number to get more information. I'm also, again, providing the ERAP, our ERAP hotline number. And lastly, our legal hotline number. So if you have any questions regarding your lease or anything regarding rent, you can definitely call our legal hotline and we would have one of our attorneys answer your question.
So it actually says you can call the 1-800-75-CON-ED number, which is 1-800-752-6633, but you must certify and attest that due to COVID-19 state of emergency, which began on March 7th, 2020, I have experienced a change in financial circumstances to enable you to get that assistance with basically getting the payment plan or getting assistance in forbearance so that you don't have to pay it right away and not have your lights turned off. And like I said, you can still do the one-shot deal though for the Con Ed.
Okay. So we do have questions. Let's start. So someone's asking, how long will these funds last?
So as I said, the ERAP, the ones that were designated from the federal government, they're quickly evaporating. That's why I'm telling people, if you were waiting to the end, please start applying now. We are hopeful, we're all hopeful that we will get more money from the federal government. We have made the request. So it's just, you know, we all have to hope and see that they give New York State more federal money. But we do have, like I said, state money, and that 125 million was designated for those 80 from 80 AMI to 120 AMI. That money is not depleted yet. And like I said, we still have some federal money. So I just encourage everybody, this is the time to apply before the money's gone. And we're hopeful, like I said, the federal government will replenish the fund, but we are not, you know, we're not guaranteed that. So this is the time to apply before the money does evaporate.
Okay, the next question. Does the tenant need to submit documents for the landlord's LRAP application?
In the LRAP, it's only for the landlord. Tenant does nothing in the LRAP. So example, the LRAP, he's only submitting like his W-9, the lease, the proof of rent owed, their banking information. They're not submitting anything regarding the tenant's date of birth. They're not submitting anything regarding their income. That's why it says regardless of income, the landlord can still do the LRAP application, because it's only the landlord filling the landlord, he or she is filling out the entire application from beginning to end. There isn't like in the ERAP where there's two portions, a landlord and tenant portion. In LRAP, it's only the landlord filling it out.
Okay. Someone is asking, do they request documents that verify why you cannot pay rent?
No, I mean, the only document that sometimes they request, if your income's unemployment, they're going to request a copy of an unemployment letter. So that could be a reason why you're not paying rent, but they don't ask you for receipts for your PPE. I mean, because they pretty much know that most people had those issues. They don't ask for receipts regarding your purchase of a laptop for your child. They're not asking for that proof. But you know, I always tell people, that's the reason for your hardship, put it down. But they're not asking you to provide proof of the receipts that you paid for your PPE.
Someone wants to see the required documents, and I'm assuming they're referring to the tenant.
I was going to ask, is it required documents for LRAP?
Yeah, well, I just asked them if it's for the tenant, but I'm assuming it's for that.
So we'll start here. So it's for the primary applicant. It's the ID, the photo ID, the social, if there is one, proof of rental obligation. So that's your lease, your rent receipt, your proof of income. So that could be your W-2, your pay stubs, your SSI award letter, your self-attestation saying I have no income. What else? You have to show, if you don't have a current lease, which I was saying earlier, you could show something like your rent receipt. Also, if you have the breakdown, because they need to know how much is owed, as well as if you're applying for utility assistance, you need your current utility bill that shows how much is owed. You can't say, oh, we also, like I said, on the Con Ed, it's gonna, or whatever utility company is, it has an account number. That's gonna be required to be included into the application. So we'll need that account number as well as the current arrears, because if you owe 800, why would you want to say I only owe 600? and then you don't get the full assistance with the utility. So make sure you have your up-to-date utility bill. I was going to try and show the documents for the landlord for ERAP too, just so that way in case it was for the ERAP and they mentioned
Yeah,
it.
I'm still waiting.
But so for the landlord's documentation, it's the W-9 tax form, the proof of ownership, the executed lease. Like I said, if there's no lease, some other documentation that shows a rental obligation, the proof of unpaid rent, so that's your rent breakdown, and then your banking information. And like I said, only the landlord, you're the only one doing this, so no one's gonna, it's just OTA and you who are seeing your documentation. It's not going to the tenant. And I want to clarify, I want to make clear that you have to show at least that you made 3 efforts, at least 3 times to try and reach out to this tenant. If you're submitting this on behalf of a tenant who's been uncooperative, you must show that you made at least 3 attempts and that at least 2 of them were by mail. And it's only 12 months. There is no prospective rent. I wanted to clarify. I don't know if I said that for the LRAP. It's only 12 months of rent arrears, not prospective. For ERAP, they can apply for 12 months as well as 3 months prospective rent. For LRAP, it's only the 12 months of arrears. And, you know, I just want to make sure people know that because I don't want anybody to say, wait a minute. Go ahead.
I will give it another minute for people to type in their questions. Well, there was one question. Someone is asking if we can receive the slides via email, but I don't think that's a good idea because we're constantly updating our PowerPoint. So we don't want to send you something that's outdated.
Yeah, we do update because, like, example, when LRAP came into play, now we had to update to add the LRAP. When they changed the AMI to include those above 80 to 120 AMI, we had to update that. So things do change constantly. So we have to update the slides constantly. But if you have any questions regarding ERAP or LRAP, you can call us, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 5 at our number, 718-866-0038, Tuesday and Thursday from 8 till 7 p.m. and on Saturday from 10 till 3. And we can answer some of your questions.
Okay, there are no more questions. So we can wrap up.
Okay, like I was saying earlier, I do encourage everybody. I'm gonna say it now. It's getting close to the end. Like I said, until we hear something from the federal government saying they're going to replenish the state's ERAP programs, you know, the funds, we're running really low on funds. So please, this is the time. Do not hesitate. I've had people who actually said, oh, I'm gonna wait till, like, you know, months go by. No, just apply now. It's a grant. You don't have to pay this back. It's not like a one-shot deal that you can have to pay back. This is money that you can apply for. And even if you think you don't qualify, I'd rather you apply and get denied than not apply and you were eligible for it. I've had people show up here with a letter that says I'm eligible since June and just showed up this week to say I want to apply. There's no reason to wait. I don't want those funds to be depleted in the coming months and then you didn't apply and then you missed out on an opportunity to get assistance with rent arrears. Just to reiterate, because we are a legal services program, and I know Samantha was going to put the information in the chat, we do have our hotline for legal information. So if you think and you're in court or you have a legal issue with housing, please call it, the 718-538-4830. And if you do have a court case, an index number, whether you call the ERAP hotline or the legal hotline, they will refer you to our HPLP program, which is for legal assistance. That means you'll get a free attorney assigned to your case. So, you know, it helps to call and to get information and to just try and seek the help versus not. And then you find out later on you could get evicted. So example, when you fill an ERAP application, the case goes into an ERAP stay. So that means, like, if you're in court and they find out you've done ERAP and they get the application number and your date of birth, because we have to provide that to the court if you, as long as you give us permission, they automatically put your case in a stay. So that case is not even heard while the ERAP is going through the process. So you don't have to be worrying about, am I facing eviction, because the ERAP is being processed. Then people also are under this belief that if until January 15th, 2022, they can't be evicted. But the issue is that the fine point print of that said that in order to get that assistance and that protection, you had to have done a hardship declaration. Some people are still not doing the hardship declaration. I see cases in court all the time where the tenant doesn't show up and the judge asks us, have you been in contact? And we're like, no, we can't get them to. And so if they don't do the hardship declaration, there is the possibility that the evictions could go through. So I'm just trying to reiterate, please contact anyone. If you're in court, contact either our legal hotline, our ERAP hotline, ERAP for the rent assistance, the legal hotline for legal assistance to get help, because we don't want people facing eviction, especially in this time. If you have a hardship, you do the hardship declaration and we'll assist you with uploading it to the court. Or you could even email it to Bronx hardship declaration at newyorkcourts.org. You can, or .gov, sorry. You can even email it yourself, but just make sure you're getting this, because you have to be protected. And that's the best way to protect yourself, is either through an ERAP application or a hardship declaration. And if that's it, there's no other questions?
Someone is asking when and where is the next presentation. So we're gonna have another presentation next week, but it's for the Spanish audience. You can definitely follow us on Facebook, Instagram, just type in NAICA, NAICA NY, and you can be updated with any future presentations that we would have. But yeah, our goal is to have more presentations, not only regarding ERAP, but also regarding lease, anything that is regarding housing.
Yes. As I stated earlier, we do provide, like I said, free legal representation in housing court. So yes, if you have questions regarding housing, like I said, reach out to our hotline and we will continue the work. We'll continue providing these presentations so that we can inform the public. That's it.
No,
No
we
other
actually have,
questions?
yeah,
Oh,
we
we
have
have more
another one.
questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we have. What if they owe rent for a room or efficiency, but the landlord is not late on the apartment itself?
So I think I understand what they're asking. So if you rents, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you have a roommate and the tenant of record is paying the landlord, but you're not paying your portion to the tenant of record. That's a problem, because the only way you can apply for ERAP is if the landlord, the actual landlord, is owed rent. So I've had people come in and say, I owe my roommate my portion because I haven't been able to pay it. And then I say, okay, let me see the rent breakdown from the landlord, and there's a zero balance. And I'm like, well, we can't get ERAP because nothing's owed to the landlord. And the tenant will say, but I owe my roommate. I owe the tenant of record. I'm her roommate. I owe her. And I'm like, but she can't be the landlord. So unfortunately, even if you rent a room, whether you're a roommate, there must be arrears owed to the actual landlord of the apartment in order to get ERAP done. If no money's owed to the landlord, the ERAP won't go through.
Next question, how long will the program last?
Like I said, the money is quickly dissipating. So try and apply at least within, if not this month, by I would apply as quickly as possible. If we hear that they've given us more funds, of course, we'll let the public know immediately, and we'll reach out to Councilman Cabrera's office and all the other politicians to let them know. And I'm sure they'll let us know as well if they hear something. But as soon as it's we receive more fundings, we will let you know. But as it is now, we are running close to basically using all the funds. So just try and apply as quickly as possible. That's all I can tell everybody.
Okay, there are no more questions.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Marlon, for presenting us. And also I want to thank Councilmember Fernando Cabrera with joining us as well and giving us this opportunity to inform the public regarding ERAP and LRAP. And everyone, thank you for joining and watching us. And we hope to see you guys next time for our future presentations. I mean, we will definitely keep everyone updated with using our social media.
Yes, and like she said, I think you said the Spanish one is November 3rd?
Yes, it's November 3rd. It's a Wednesday at 5:30. So if you can just go on any of our social media accounts, we would definitely have more information on how to log in into the Spanish webinar. So thank you, and everyone, have a good night.
Thank you guys. Have a good night. Bye.